How's it going, guys? So we're going to find out what would happen if Peter Chiarelli never made a trade for the Edmonton Oilers. So if you didn't know, he actually took over as GM for the Edmonton Oilers back in the spring of 2015. Right now I'll put on the screen just a list of all the trades he made. As you can see there, the first one he ever made was the first or second round pick for Griffin Reinhart. Obviously that one didn't go over too well. The first round pick turned to Matthew Barzal. Then like a year later, traded Taylor Hall for Adam Larsson. Trade was 1-for-1, and although I think we can all agree those are definitely his two worst trades, he also made some other questionable trades where he definitely didn't get enough value back for the asset he was trading away. So I'm going to show you guys what the new Edmonton Oilers would look like, and even though I reversed all the trades he made, I actually left all the free agent signings as those would still happen with this team as they're actually under the salary cap. So before I show you guys what the new Edmonton Oilers are looking like, I want to quickly show you what the team looked like last year. Obviously underperformed big time, did not make the playoffs from like the worst 10 teams in the league. Forward depth, I mean, they definitely needed some new wingers. Defense wasn't too bad. Talbot didn't look like he did a couple years ago, so that was a big part in it. Now I'm going to show you guys what these Edmonton Oilers look like if Charlotte had never made a trade. So team stats that you can see is hopeful, and this team is 100% all offense, and we'll see what happens with it. So there's a quick look at the lines. Obviously, we have no idea what the lines would actually look like, but with this team, like that top 9, you can pretty much do whatever you want. I'm sure it'll work out. So I have the first line being Taylor Hall, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, just the 3 best players. Why not put them all together on the same line and just watch the magic happen? I mean, McDavid and Draisaitl tear it up when they play together. Imagine adding Hall as the other winger. Like, this line would be unstoppable. Second line there even, you got Eberle and Barzal, and now with Yakupov. Barzal and Eberle was actually New York Islanders' second line this year, so I figured why not keep them together and then throw Yakupov on the left wing there. I feel like having Yakupov playing with Barzal and Eberle might help like rejuvenate his career. Obviously, he's going to the KHL now, if you guys didn't know that. Third line here is also pretty solid. You got Lucic, Nugent Hopkins, and Puljujarvi. So, I mean, a couple big wingers there, and Lucic and Puljujarvi. Maybe Lucic can bounce back here. Playing with a good center in Nuge, and then an up-and-coming winger there in Puljujarvi. Fourth line could be better, but honestly, it's not too bad. All the 3 of these guys have potential still. So you got Slepyshev on right wing, Kara there in the center, and then Kajula at left wing. Defense, honestly, is not even as bad as I expected it to be. Going through all the trades, I didn't realize, like, really their defensive core was already here. Didn't have to do with trades, I guess. So you have Clefbaum and Schultz as the top pair. They traded away Schultz for a 3rd-round pick. He ended up being like the Penguins' #1 defenseman in the playoffs after Letang went down. And he's actually got the exact same rating as Adam Larsson. So they could still have Taylor Hall, and then Schultz would replace Larsson, and all they would lose is a 3rd-round pick. I feel like if they could go back in time, they would definitely do that. Second pair stays the same, Sakara and Nurse. And the third pair is also the same, Russell and Benning. So again, like, the defense really doesn't change. The only big change without any trades is goalies. I feel like one of Charlotte's best trades was definitely the trade he made for Talbot, even though he did have a rough year this year. So without that trade, you can see Scrimmins is the starter. I actually had to add him to this game. He's in the KHL right now. Asked on Twitter, I feel like 78 is a pretty good rating for him. I feel like he'd probably be an okay back if he was still playing in the NHL. And then backing him up, actually, we have Brossois, who's a 75. And if you're wondering why the goalies are so bad, all the goalies they've gotten were actually from trades. So, like, Montoya was the backup this year after they figured, like, Brossois wasn't good enough. They got him in a trade with Montreal. Before that, they had Nielsen, who they also got in a trade. So, in terms of, like, just the talent they had before Shirley got there in net, it's not very good. So that's what they have to run with. We'll see, I guess, whether or not those forwards are good enough to make up for the goalies. Also, I just want to quickly show you guys like the special teams. I mean, that first power play, Barzal, McDavid, Draisaitl, Hall, and Schultz, that is just insane. The second one here is still pretty solid, I would say. Also, too, like, I want to show you guys the, where is it? The 3-on-3 lines, because they're just ridiculous. I would not want to go 3-on-3 at this team. McDavid, Hall, Clefbaum, like, the speed you got in that first one. Then you have Barzal, Draisaitl, Schultz, even Nuge, Eberle, Sakara, that's like your third one. So we'll see what happens here. I feel like this team should score a lot of goals, but they're also going to let a lot of goals in. I remember seeing something on Twitter about how if you had Hall and McDavid on the same team, and if you split them up, like, those 2 lines would control the play so much, it wouldn't even matter, like, who you had on the 3rd and 4th line, who your defense was. Like, these 2 guys are just so good, have the puck on their stick so much, it doesn't matter. But for this simulation, I have them on the same line, just going to see if this is going to be, like, the best line in the NHL. Also, guys, I almost forgot, there's a few decent scratch players, too. So you got Davidson and Marincin on D, both 78, the same rating as Benning, but Benning's right-handed, that's why he's on the bottom pair with Russell. Jokinen here, obviously, too, they signed, then ended up trading him for Camilleri. I actually think that was a decent trade. Obviously, like, Jokinen scratch, the forward group's just too good. They don't even need him. Also, guys, before we start the sim, I want to show you what the Devils and Islanders are looking like, as Edmonton made 2 pretty big trades with both of them. So starting off here, we have the Devils. Forward group's pretty sad without Taylor Hall. Johansson, Hischier, and Palmieri. It's an okay first line. It'd probably be most teams' second line, though. Same with like their second line would be most teams' third line, and then their bottom 6 there is like not too bad, but yeah, they're definitely missing some offensive firepower without Taylor Hall, which makes sense why he won the Hart Trophy this year. Had like the biggest gap between him and the second leading scorer on the team. Defense though obviously is still pretty solid. I mean, it's better now. They have Adam Larsson back. You can see Butcher, Severson, Vatanen, Larsson, Moore, and Lovejoy. Obviously, if they still have Larsson, I don't think they make the trade for Vatanen, Trey, and Henrique. But if they do, like, that's a pretty solid decor. And then obviously they still have Schneider and Ned. But I think with this team, it'd be kind of like the old Devils teams in the early 2000s. They just play the traps. They have a really good defense, really no offense. Hope to win like a 1-0 game. And next year, guys, we have the Islanders. So they still have John Tavares here, as we haven't hit the 2018 UFA yet. So their first line is still the exact same. Bailey, Tavares, Lee, very solid first line. The second line, though, drops down drastically. No longer do they have Everly and Barzal. It's now Nelson, Strome, and Ladd. And then in the bottom 6 there, you can see it's pretty rough, which makes sense. You're losing like 2 second line players. You are getting Strome back, but I think he was like third line center for the Oilers. So yeah, the forward group for the Islanders, just like the Devils, looks a lot worse. I don't know. I think like every trade Chiarelli's made that involved forwards, like he just didn't get enough back. But whenever he traded like a late pick or something, he usually got a pretty good return, like the Patrick Maroon trade, even like the Jokinen for Camilleri trade I mentioned, the Talbot trade. It's like the small trades, he does a good job. Whenever it's involving a pretty big name player, he just does not get the value back. I feel like he trades them at their absolute lowest. Like Schultz, he was getting like too many minutes, looked terrible, whatever. Got a 3rd round pick. Now if Penguins trade him, they get at least a 2nd, maybe a 1st. Same goes for Taylor Hall. Like, you're getting more than Adam Larsson. You're going to get Ekman Larsson if you trade Taylor Hall. But regardless, I'm just ranting a little bit. Let's start this sim. We'll see how good this team is. The all-offense Edmonton Oilers. I'm excited to see the results. Alright guys, this is honestly pretty amazing. We're at the trade deadline now, and as you can see here, the Oilers are 32-26-4 with a 78 overall starting goaltender. Like, I'm guessing they're in a wild card spot. Obviously, the Central's got a pretty stacked division, so maybe not. No, they're not in a wild card spot. They are 3rd in the Pacific, so it doesn't matter. 68 points there. McDavid leading scorer with 53. And one thing I want to check right now, guys, is whether or not we have the worst starting goaltender in the NHL, as I think we probably do, in which case this team being in a playoff spot at the deadline is even more impressive. Like, imagine if the only trade Chiarelli made was for Cam Talbot, just how much better this team would be. So I'm just going to quickly check here to see if any team's starting goaltender is worse than 78. I highly doubt it. So I just checked, guys, and we do have the worst starting goaltender in the league by 4 overall, actually. The next worst is an 82. I think Anderson on Ottawa is an 82, as well as Markstrom on Vancouver is an 82. Surprisingly, though, Brossoit isn't the worst backup. There were a few teams that actually had worse than a 75 as their backup, so I guess that's something. Now, one more thing I want to show you guys before we finish simming here is the fact that a lot of people are mentioning how like Hall got traded for cap reasons. Same for Jordan Eberle. Well, this team right here has $8.8 million in cap space. So if you just add that to McDavid, like that's $9 million right there. Not to mention the fact that the salary cap's going up and everything else. And I mean, if you just do the math, like there was really no reason these trades ever had to be made if you're just looking at it specifically from a cap reason. Not to mention the fact, if it was cap, you could have not made these trades and then not signed Lucic. And like Lucic is a contract you don't want anymore. But regardless, they could have still signed Lucic and had this team. Like Taylor Hall's making $6 million, so he's making less than $2 million more than Larsson. Eberle's making $6 million as well. He's making like $3 million more than Strome was, so that's less than $5 million extra. Again, they had, I think, like $10 million in cap space this year. Even going into next year, I feel like it still could have all fit. And let's say worst case scenario, they were over the cap. Like, let's say they did have Cam Talbot, as our goalies right now are basically, you know, worthless. Trade away somebody that's not a superstar, or buy somebody out. Like, there's so many other options than trading away a Hart Trophy winner in Taylor Hall or a 60-point winger in Jordan Eberle. It still baffles me looking at this right now, but the team is somehow winning with the worst starting goaltender in the league. We'll sim the last month and a half here and see if they actually make the playoffs. That'd be pretty incredible. Throughout the end of the season here, finished the record of 43, 32, and 7, so it's a pretty solid record. 93 points is kind of like right around playoff contention. Could be third in the Pacific if it's a weak division. Could be wild card. Could miss by a point or two. We'll see how it all plays out here. They definitely played good enough to give themselves a chance. Look at that. Second in the division. Vegas Golden Knights actually finishing first. That's kind of crazy. Like when we did our Detroit sim, I think that was like 3 days ago, Vegas was one of the worst teams in the league, was a top 5 pick. This time they win the division. So Vegas is a very fluky team, I guess. And Calgary there finishes third, 92 points. Obviously both wildcard spots. You go to the Central, as the Central is stacked. No surprises there. McDavid though, only 71 points. This year obviously he had a lot more points than that in real life, but maybe that's because he had to like share some ice time with Taylor Hall, with these other guys. Let's see. So Draisaitl also at 71. Hall there 69. So I mean, the three of them didn't do as good as they did individually. Like I guess McDavid and Hall didn't, but still three of them producing quite a bit. Barzal 60. He had 80 in real life. I could be wrong, but I feel like when you use the full sim game style in this game, guys don't score as much, even though it's supposed to be the most realistic. I think this year too, though, guys just scored way more than previous seasons. So Yakupov there almost 40 points. Not too bad. It looks like he went up 1 overall. Actually, did anyone else go up overall? Clefbaum's 87 now, so I mean, there's your number 1 D-man. Barzal, though, did not grow at all. Kind of surprised by that. Same with McDavid, but I mean, yeah, our guys producing quite a bit. Nugent Hopkins could have had more. I know he's on the 3rd line, but still. Lucic there doing about as bad as he did in real life, so I guess that's still a pretty terrible contract. Let's take a look here at Scriven's stats, along with Brossois. So Scriven, 69 games played, 37, 27, and 5, 7 shutouts, .924 save percentage, 2.31 goals against. So for 78, 31 years old, I gave him like fringe star potential. Felt that was pretty fair. Right there, you guys can take a look at his stats. Roll there's a backup goalie. He was playing starter, and he still had pretty good stats. So clearly the team in front of him was definitely helping him out. I just want to take a look now at scoring for the entire league. Patrick Kane, 105. I don't know how Kane gets 105. And then our like insane top line of Hall, McDavid, and Draisaitl only gets like 70 each, but whatever. Maybe it's because I don't know. I don't know how that works out, but the team still played well. We got playoffs, but I don't get this one. And I know we finished 2nd in the division. I'm also curious to see where we finished the entire NHL. The real life Oilers this year were 23rd, and the no Chiarelli trade team Oilers were 12th. So that is definitely interesting. I'm wondering if New Jersey's still a playoff team though, 7th, and what about the Islanders? I'm really surprised with the Devils. They had to play just some boring ass hockey. Islanders though did not make the playoffs. Kind of finished very similar spot though to where they would have with Barzal and Everly, 20th, around 10th last. So the first round of playoffs, guys, we have an Alberta rivalry matched up here with the Calgary Flames. So we'll see if we're one and done. We're gonna win the first game though. That was at home. Win the second. All right. Win 1 in Calgary. There you go. So 5 games there. We beat the Flames. Definitely doing better than the real life Oilers already. We're on to the second round. We have the St. Louis Blues here. We'll see what happens. Again, this team was just being carried, I think, by the offense. And look at that. They are through. So 8-2 so far in the playoffs is not too bad at all. Each series there going to 5 games. The Nashville Predators though in the conference final. This will be a tough series. I guess they got by the Jets. I feel like there's no way we get by Rene and the Preds. Or we have a 3-2 series lead. We had a 3-1 series lead. Edmonton and Montreal in the Stanley Cup final somehow this year after reversing all the Chiarelli trades. I don't know how that helped out Montreal's team. I did not reverse the Bergevin trades, although it is actually what I plan on doing for the next one of these videos, so it's really surprising to see them make the Stanley Cup final. I don't know. We'll see what happens here. I'm just gonna stop talking. I'm in shock. 2-2. Are they Stanley Cup champions if Chiarelli doesn't make a trade? Game 7. Wow, so they were a game away from being Stanley Cup champions. Had Chiarelli not done anything, just signed a few free agents and drafted the same way. And then Montreal somehow wins the Stanley Cup in this sim. I'm guessing Carey Price just went God mode. Also, I noticed too, Lavelle won the Calder Cup, so I'm sure this is a great timeline for Montreal fans. Unfortunately, it is not the real one. Draisaitl there going off in the playoffs, 26 points, 23 games. Let's see how everyone else did in the playoffs. Hall there at 23, McDavid 22, so that whole first line was right around a point per game. Barzal even 21. Surprised he hasn't grown at all. Like, he was pretty good here for an 85. Everly 14, could have shown up a bit more. Yakupov 11. I wonder, like, did Scrivens cost us, or pretty good stats? 15 and 7, .923 save percentage, 2.25 goals against, 2 shutouts. Like, yeah, definitely it's not on him. Let's see here the road Montreal took to get to the Stanley Cup. So they beat Ottawa there in 5. Again, definitely a simulation. Beat Tampa in 5. I don't know how they beat Tampa. Tampa's almost always like in the Eastern Conference Final when I do this. At least like the first year. They also beat Capitals in 6. So the Capitals did make it, which is realistic. And then beat us in 7. That is pretty crazy. We'll take a look at the awards here as well. So we know we won the Clarence S. Campbell, which is pretty cool. Player awards here. Patty Kane, Art Ross. Stamkos there with the Hart. That's surprising. Usually Hart and Art Ross go hand in hand. Carlson, James Norris, Kane, Lindy Bing. Besser got the Calder. I thought maybe Barzal could have had it 60 points. I think I saw Besser though at like 71. So if Besser doesn't get injured, does he win it this year? I feel like it's still Barzal's. Conn Smythe, Price, that makes sense. Vezina, Hellebuck, I thought maybe Price if he was going off. William M. Jennings there went to Rene. Bill Masterson with Thoughts. Selke went to Stull. Ted Lindsay, Stamkos, Maurice Richard, Ovi. So no awards there at all for us. Honestly, I thought that first line would have been like a god line. Like, I wouldn't have been surprised if they all three had 90 plus points, maybe McDavid at 100, but it just did not happen. So, obviously, I think it's pretty safe to say Australia doesn't make a single trade. It'd be better than making the trades he made. There were a couple solid trades in there, like the one he made for Talbot, like I was saying. He got marooned for cheap, and a couple other small moves. But at the end of the day, if he doesn't make a trade, I'm sure he can go find a goalie, even if it's not Talbot, for a relatively cheap price that's better than Scrivens. And then with the offense they have, it doesn't matter. Like, you're going to control the pace of play. You're going to have the puck on your sticks and be applying so much offensive pressure that, like, the other teams aren't going to know what to do. I'm honestly still shocked by the results. Obviously, I knew our offense was insane, had a solid defense still, but the goaltending, without a true starting goaltender, I didn't think we could make the playoffs. I figured we'd probably be like a bubble team that just missed. So the fact we finished second in the division and then went all the way to the Stanley Cup final is just crazy to me. I guess it shows, too, anyone could be a better GM than Chiarelli if they literally did nothing. So those are the results from this video. Let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments section. Like I mentioned earlier, I do plan on doing this again with Marc Bergevin, reversing all the trades he's made for Montreal Canadiens and seeing what that team looks like. Should be pretty interesting. So if you guys don't want to miss that video, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Help me out on the road to 100K. Also, if you guys enjoyed this one, please leave that thumbs up. Besides that, thank you guys for watching. Have a nice day. Goodbye.